here we go. 3, 2. Oh, yeah.
Whoa, that was like clicked a few times.
Well, this beer is a special beer. You only have picks and pints, but there will be a beer reveal of some kind. Actually, this is delightful. This is exactly what my soul
tell everyone
needs.
what you said to me when you got on.
Oh, wait. I was actually going to start with a different story. But what did I say? I don't remember now.
You're like, the only thing we had in our communal fridge was this. And I was like, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, well, that will be when people learn, they should stay and listen to this episode, which we said is going to be an expedited one because we're exhausted.
Yeah, this is a reaction to everything that has happened in the last week. We will get to serious bowl previews and serious transfer portal talk next week. This week is just like, holy cannoli. The college football playoff committee really did what they did, you know?
A few things. I've got two things to start. First and foremost, shout out Municipal. You are rocking I love that sweatshirt. Excellent sweatshirt.
It's a cropped hoodie. This is so sick. If you were looking for a gift for your wife, this is great. And those t-shirts, the women's workout t-shirts are so soft.
I saw at the airport as I was getting out of New York home, I saw 3 people wearing Municipal related.
I saw it a lot too.
It's awesome. So we are excited. Municipal.com. You're right. Holiday shopping. No Punch 20 for 20% off your first order. Tell them we sent you. We love them. We appreciate them, and they are. Just saying. 4 Miles Garrett. Adam and Paige.
Yeah. So
now, next order of business. We were out in New York. We're going to talk about playoffs, but first and foremost, maybe our best collective interaction that we have ever had. We've traveled to different events. We've done national championships. I flew out to New York. You were already out. And I was grabbing a bite. It was Friday night of you don't know where I'm going with this yet, do you?
No.
Oh, good. You'll know quickly. So, and you'll enjoy that this is making the pot.
Okay.
I'm exhausted. And I just ordered food. Staying at the hotel, getting ready to watch Oregon. You were out and about. And I texted you. I wanted to know where you were.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I can't believe you're telling the story. I'm so happy you're telling the story.
I wanted to know just where you were, general vicinity, right? You had texted me earlier, like, hey, I haven't eaten. So, I ordered a pizza. There's leftovers.
Yeah, so you're like, hey, I have a pizza. If you come here,
I'm getting nervous. Okay, I'm getting nervous because I'm like, I got to go cover this game. Where are you? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't have service in the place that I was in. It was like spotty service. And the Uber that I tried to get in, it was raining in New York. And if it's raining in New York, there's usually an issue with an Uber. And I called an Uber and it left like as I was walking out of the place. And I was like, you just got here. So first of all, annoyed with that Uber. Anyway, I was running a little bit more behind than I had said I was going to.
So I texted you. So I thought, how far are you? ? And I put my phone down and I continued to drink my cab and ate my food. And eventually you show up. I don't hear from you. You show up. You sit down and you look at your phone and it's dead. I have a portable charger. I said, here you go. Like, charge away. You fire up your phone. You look at your phone and then you look at me like perplexed. Because rather writing, how far are you? I wrote accidentally, how fat are you?
Which is so funny in the context of the conversation. Like, you were like, hey, I'm going to have leftovers. And it could have looked like you were like, hey, how fat are you? How hungry are you feeling? It was so funny. And let me tell you, the way that you're reacting, if you're not watching on YouTube right now,
oh my God,
please go watch this because the way that Adam is like physically reacting, I was like, how fat are you? And I was dying laughing. I was like in tears because I knew he meant how far are you. But
I
just
was
so he
like,
wrote how fat are you was so funny because he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he corrected it even in the thing after.
I said it wrong again. Then I corrected it in text, but I was still doing it wrong.
Oh,
so
how fat are you? That was so
it was
funny.
Like the immediate panic and then just hilarious. Everything. I mean, that was great. I mean, that was truly, that is the pod in a nutshell is right there. Is just sheer clumsiness and a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Even telling the story was clumsy, but I feel like we get it done. But the how fat are you? I will post a screenshot of it when we
So
someone's calling
bad.
me. Not right now. I'll
So
post a
bad.
screenshot of it because I took it and sent it to one of my friends, and I was like, "How funny is this that Kramer sent it to me?" Because like of all people, you would be like the last person on
Oh my
earth
God.
to be like, "How fat are you?" But
It's horrifying.
honestly, it was the best thing I've ever seen. So
So
that was top notch start to our trip. But
we,
yes, we were in New York City and very, very busy. It looked like I mean, we had fun because we make the most of it, but like
yeah,
I was talking to someone about it and I was like, yeah, I got there Thursday and had to work Thursday, Friday, and then, but not as intensely as I had to work Saturday, Sunday. And like the stretch from like Friday when we finished working on the Pac-12 championship game to Sunday, then we
yeah.
did the live show and then immediately both went to the airport was like chaos. Like
It
I
was
woke up
chaos.
on Monday morning like, whoo, that felt like I was excessively drinking when really
I,
it was just working.
yeah, I'm still not quite right, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. I mean, not only that, but like the Pac-12 game was late.
Yeah.
The
Eastern time.
Saturday was intense.
Yeah.
And then even getting ready for the show, which we did, which was a blast. Got to work with old pal Michael Felder again. That
Yes.
was really nice. Great to see Felder. I haven't seen him in years. He is truly one of a kind. I miss him, and that was fun. We had a really good time. So, but it was exhausting, and we're still not quite right. And I suppose now we can talk about the decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, by the way, led into the stress of us hosting the show on Sunday. So Saturday night, we were working all day on Saturday.
Yeah.
Also another like funny New York thing. Kramer and I were like, oh, well, Friday we went out to watch the Pac-12 game at like a sports bar to just watch the game. And then afterwards,
Yes.
we'll talk in between, come up with the idea. We'll go right after. And we go into this bar and it was kind of packed, but it wasn't too crazy. And we ended up being able to get a seat at the bar and just watch the game comfortably. On Saturday, I like forgot that people go out and like do things on Saturday, especially like New York City during the day.
Yeah.
And we went back to that same bar and there was no chance we were getting any sort of seat anywhere. So then we had to do some Googling of like, okay, places with TVs that we can go sit at. We end up in British pubs in New York like very often. I don't know why that just comes up on our thing. But we ended up at like the White Horse Tavern. We ended up at this White Oak Tavern, by the way, which is phenomenal. 10 out of 10 recommend going there because. So we're sitting watching the SEC game. Mind you, there's also Premier League football on, which is great as well. We're watching the SEC game. It's halftime. We're eating our food and talking about things. And all of a sudden, like you hear like Christmas music, like Christmas carols. And I was like,
legit carols.
Like legit carols. And I was like, wait, is that like people singing like legit in here? And turns out there was like a group that performs in New York City. And they, I guess 4 years prior, had come into this restaurant. And they were taking up like space of like what was reserved. And so to kind of like remedy this big group started singing and performing for people that were waiting for tables. And now every year they come back and they sing. And we just happened to be in there watching the SEC championship game. And I have video of it. It's probably one of the coolest things that I've like ever experienced because it wasn't like obnoxious. It was like dimly lit and there was like candles everywhere and the whole place was decorated for Christmas. And it was just really cool. And everyone kind of just like went silent and listened to them. And it was amazing. So that was a really cool little New York City rant before we got to actually watch the second half.
Like that was why it was nice. It was a mix of work and we worked really hard. And then some levity, some of that.
Yes.
And New York is, I actually see why there's not a lot of bars with golden teas in New York. I've always wondered this, where do you put golden tea? And because it's tight. Everything is tiny.
Yes.
But we watch football, we listen to carols, or I made an ass of myself in a text message inadvertently, all the normal things. And we did the show. And so we did the show and Florida State gets fucked. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
We haven't exactly weird. We did a show for an hour, you, me, and Felder. And we're watching this in real time. And I thought that this was going to happen. I'm not saying that as a humble brag, but I was emotionally prepared for Florida State to get fucked.
Yeah.
And I'm still not quite sure how to process this.
So it's so interesting because like you and I on Saturday night were like, hey, there's some movement based on what we saw and people we very much trust. that like this happens.
Yes.
But I think I had to emotionally prepare myself the other way because I obviously wanted Alabama to make it and thought that they were the better team, that I emotionally prepared myself for them not to make it. So I also just did not think the committee had it in them. I thought they were going to go, you know what? We get to move this to 12 next year. Let's just make it easy. Let's leave Bama out. We've done it before when they've had one loss. Let's just do it. There's an undefeated team, Power 5 conference champ. This makes sense. The other part of doing this live show is that we didn't get the rest of the top 25 either. Yeah. So it was just like all we had to talk about was this top 6. And we could have talked about it probably for 2 more hours because it was just so shocking that this was the announcement. And now I think everyone is in a place of like acceptance because there's nothing that's going to change, maybe besides the like Florida State AD. But like, it is incredibly shocking that is what happened. Like, I still can't believe that we really witnessed them putting Alabama in with 1 loss and Texas in with 1 loss over Florida State.
So I have, amid the, the politicians, like, so predictably dumb, Ron DeSantis and all these government, like everybody's like trying to attach themselves to this for the greater good of their popularity. That's what this is. It's really stupid.
Yeah.
So I am going to give the selection committee some credit. And I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I'm pretty good at it. This was the hard decision. Whether you think it or not, this is the hard thing to do. And they know that when they do this, the world's going to explode. And they did it anyway. You don't have to agree with it. And actually, in some ways I do, in some ways I don't. Like, this was a fucking lose-lose. Like, I think that the playoff is far more interesting. We are all happy. And come January 1st, we're going to be thrilled. They're like, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this. I think they did the right thing. I also think Florida State got horribly screwed. And I feel horrible for them. And I think the playoff system is utterly broken. Yeah. And now we're fixing it. How can those 2 thoughts be true? Once?
Yeah, I tweeted this. I was like, 2 things can be true. First, Alabama is a better team and should have gotten in the playoff. Second part of this is horrible for that Florida State team because they did everything they could have done. And because of an injury, and I think a lot of people want to make it about the injury, not industry, injury. Words are hard sometimes.
Why
I think that people want to make it about the injury, but I think it was just that without Jordan Travis, they did not dominate teams the way that you have to be able to get in if you have a backup player. You have to beat a team by a bajillion in your conference championship game. It wasn't enough to just do it.
It was awful.
It's horrible for those kids. I feel horrible that they do not get to play for a national championship. But I also, like you said, know that when it comes to the semifinals, I'm going to be pretty happy because I'm going to be watching a close game. And I know the argument was they're going to get Ronamaker back and they shouldn't weigh in on that championship game. Again, the Florida game, it's not by a million. You got to dominate your opponents. It's how you beat your opponent is in there as well. So in that criteria, it's hard. And everyone, my beef was that like everyone was like, this is just because it's Alabama. It's like, well, yes, in the sense that they're pretty well coached. They've gotten better week over week. They beat what the committee viewed as the number 1 team in the country. I mean, we talked about this. Georgia could be pretty pissed that they got left out considering the injury thing. Like, they can claim that they lost because they had significant injuries on their team as well.
Georgia is clearly one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Yes, I think they had a better argument. Yeah, for doing best teams. But I think the other thing that was thrown out there is that like games don't matter. And I think that that's true to an extent. When it comes to no. I think it's true to an extent that like just winning games doesn't matter. Just because you won that game doesn't matter. Okay, How you won those games is what matters. And everyone's going to go, well, Alabama almost lost to Auburn. They still beat Georgia pretty handedly. Okay. Like it's how you win those games. That's why Texas was in, because they beat Alabama by 10. That's why the head-to-head mattered in that situation. I found that to be very interesting as well, by the way. That, like, Texas was in, and the conversation was between Florida State and Alabama.
I think that makes sense, though, because Texas...
No, but I'm just saying, no, but my thought process on it is, okay, so that one game, making their strength of schedule harder, and then they have a loss that's not that great. I mean, I know people are like, they're the number 12 team in the country. I get it, but that was not a good loss. And that head-to-head matchup, yeah, it happened. And yes, they evaluated in the same spot. But if the committee was going like full scorched earth on this, why didn't they say that head-to-head doesn't matter and Alabama actually ranks above, Texas? Because they played better overall, not just that one game that we're looking at. That to me was interesting as well. Because, like, if you're going to say that you can make the evaluation of this Florida State team based on the eye test and all these players, you can also make the evaluation that in the last, besides the Big 12 championship game, that Alabama overall has looked like the better team since that
You
USF
almost lost
game.
to fucking Auburn.
They've looked like the better team. Texas has almost lost multiple times too.
Well, but not on 4th and 31 from 4th and goal from 31.
Doesn't matter. That's my point. Is like you can nitpick.
I jive with you.
You could literally nitpick this entire thing and say that they weren't consistent. They weren't consistent on the fact that SMU didn't get put in the New Year's Six Bowl over Liberty.
Bullshit. That was some bullshit.
You're saying that an undefeated team doesn't matter, or does matter, but yet here we are.
This is what you have this is what you have with humans, though. And so next year, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but next year you'll get the top probably top 5 conference champs will be in, and then you'll have 7 at-larges. You're still gonna have the same stuff. Are you
gonna get one from the Pac-12?
No, I'm sorry. No,
top 4.
Well, right now, actually, by the way it's written right now, it's top 6. So it's the top 5 Power 5s and a group of 5
group of
team.
5, yeah.
That's going to change.
Yeah, because of Pac-12
they'll condense
stuff,
that down to 5. And then they'll have 7, most likely 7 at-larges, which is electric, by the way. I wrote about this today, or this week at Bleacher Report. It was a lot of fun because it's like, this would have been a perfect year for the 12 team.
Gosh, it would have been so good. And that makes me happy about this whole conversation. Perfect point. This is a reminder that 12 teams and expanding this is a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Couple other things as we focus in on the playoffs. So Florida State, you got fucked, and I'm really sorry.
Yeah,
but it was the right call, and I don't know if those things can exist, but fine.
I think most people feel that way. Sorry,
Washington. I bet against you. You did not. You were on Washington. That was uber impressive. I think lost in the madness is the fact that we kind of completely skipped over Washington winning as nearly a double-digit underdog in Vegas. That was awesome. Not good for the bank account, but incredibly impressive.
Some people's bank accounts, not mine.
Not good for mine.
But also the conversation between Michigan and Washington got lost in the shuffle as well.
Well, and then
Washington certainly had a case to be number 1 in the country.
I agree. And it sounds like they debated it. Like, that was, the more I thought about that, I'm like, yeah. Like, and I mean, we don't have to talk too much about Iowa. But Iowa's defense played their asses off again. Yeah. Of course, like, that's the end of the discussion. I don't have to say anything else. And but Michigan, Michigan Bama is electric. I don't know what to make of that game, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. But
Ooh, buddy.
I know, buddy. And then last, of course, definitely not least, we got to talk about the GOAT. Your GOAT, my GOAT, Mr. Nick Saban. It is truly, I can shit on Alabama's 4th and 31. I say shit. I'm saying you're right. All these resumes, we could pick apart pieces. If this was like in a court case, we'd all have pretty good evidence. Like, this team sucks.
Yeah, if we were lawyering,
if we were lawyering, we could do it. But lawyering really doesn't matter. Alabama lost to Texas by 10, was ungodly awful against USF, while Milroe was more or less benched because they were trying to figure out what he has. Tactically, Nick Saban did that, realized his other quarterbacks are not very good. The one fucking kid is now a lacrosse player, by the way, which is wild. And then Milroe became a really fucking good quarterback, like a really good quarterback, and one of the more fun watches that we've seen in college football recently.
Yeah,
Saban is like next level Jedi, goat, master, black belt, you name it. This is wild what he did.
And not only that, my favorite is just seeing his face being in the playoff and talking about that they're in the playoff. Because again, people forget that Alabama has been left out before.
Yes.
And with one loss. And this team deserved to be in more than that team did, for sure. So I am glad that this is the team that got in, because again, they beat Georgia. They looked great, on both sides of the ball. Like you said, Milroe, it's unbelievable the transformation from the beginning of the year, and getting that much out of your players is what Nick Saban does best and what separates him. But also the idea of Nick Saban going against Jim Harbaugh, who has been suspended for multiple games this year and is they're just different vibes completely, different public images, all the things. That head-to-head is incredible for college football. And I know people will play the network game. We talked about this on the show when it was live. We were like, yeah, look, network-wise, this is amazing. This is great. This is a great storyline, all the things. But even just as a college football fan and as a football fan in general, this is what you want to see. Like, this is why we created a playoff where it's not one game. It's a semifinal and getting in and being able to see those head-to-heads, because this is chef's kiss. Like, this is the script writers did great. And if you've been against Michigan, and that's the other thing that hasn't been talked about, a lot of people aren't talking about the fact that, like, hey, Michigan probably cheated for a decent part of this season, and they are made the playoff. Like, how are you as a lawmaker, not, the people who are mad in Florida, why are you not pissed that Michigan's in?
Well,
what are we doing here?
It's sort of what we see in politics, is that there's been so much noise that everyone's just kind of tired of that. The Michigan thing, we're like, oh, you did what?
We're moving on, whatever we want to focus on.
How many tickets? It's no longer shocking, but it is shocking. And it paves the way for awesome semis. Awesome semis.
I think Washington, Texas is going to be closer than people think.
It's 4.5 points right now. Total in the 60s. I felt pretty good about myself in the live show, by the way, when Felder put me on the spot and asked me what I thought the spreads and totals were going to be. I think I did a reasonable job. Everyone that listens to this pod know we love the game.
We love that game.
What's that spread? Normally,
which, by the way, we will play during bowl season. We're going to do part 1 of bowl predictions next week, and we are going to play. We're going to play.
What's that spread? Yeah. I don't know. The end result is going to be really good.
Yeah.
And to those of us with not Florida State allegiances.
Yeah.
And now though it's hard. If you're a Florida State fan, I get it. There is nothing to say to you that hasn't already been said, and nor would I try to console you in something that, frankly, it has no explanation.
Okay. So I have 2 questions for you. I'm going to start with one, and then I'll let you answer, and then I have another one right after that. The first is, do you think this takes away from the credibility of the playoff committee? And if you had a choice, I guess it's a 2-parter for this first one. If you had a choice, who would make up the college football playoff committee? Because there's been a lot of conversation about that as well. So I'm curious, 1, do you think that people are going to hate the system even though it's expanding to 12? And 2, who do you actually think should be making these decisions?
So it's great questions. Do I think it? No, I don't. I think this is an impossible situation. They finally got one.
Yeah.
And we're not going to win no matter what. Now, when they show the room, and it's a bunch of old fuckers just sitting around, in their loafers, a lot of men in that room, right? And just sitting around in their chairs and watching. I can't say it inspires a lot of confidence. I can't. Like, if you're an AD at a school, doesn't mean you know football. You know your football. You know your conference. But do you really know football? Like, we've talked about this. Like, they should expand it. They should make it younger. Personally, I actually think that letting the BCS formula decide this, I kind of like that. So
use the computers and give the top four.
Use the computers. Give me my AQs. Get rid of a room of people. Okay, like, I'm not blaming them for making this call. Get rid of the people. Give us 5 automatic qualifiers, and then go to the formulas.
Do you know if we went to the formulas this year, if it would have been the top 4 that we have?
I don't know. It's largely been the same.
Okay.
It's largely been the same. That's a great question. I probably should have looked that up before taking that stance.
Someone on the internet has definitely done that. So if you want to look that up while I'm asking you this question. The next part of this is, do you think that if Alabama wins the national championship, which, by the way, very much on the table, not only just because they made the playoff, but you get past Michigan, and no offense to Washington and Texas, but like that probably an easier job than anything. But I think the biggest part of this, like, do you think the committee is like vindicated if Bama wins the title?
No, sorry, I didn't mean to be gesturing to you. I had someone standing outside my office.
I could tell. I was going with it. I wasn't gonna rat you out. That was the best.
So I have a desktop under here, and the SSD was replaced. So he may walk in at some point. There may be a rough cut of this pod at some point.
That was amazing. You were like,
I'm like, I
watch this show on YouTube, please. You would just
check,
see
please. Yeah,
the most ridiculous. Oh my gosh, that's so funny that you said that. I was making fun of Kramer all of New York because every time he asked for the check, he did the like check please in the air, and he does like the writing across. Some people put the hand and do the writing. Adam just does the writing, but that's like a TikTok trend, and it's so funny. You mouth like the bill, the check. When you say check,
please.
Check.
I'm very polite. What did you ask me? There's a lot going on. What did you ask? Like, I got people outside the fucking window.
I asked you if you think that Bama would be vindicated, and I think you answered that question. Or not Bama would be vindicated, the CB playoff would be vindicated. Like, but Bama has like a legitimate chance of winning a national championship.
I think no. Like, people get it. Bama's in there. Like, this is the part. Like, I don't know if anyone's disagreeing with their inclusion that they're not one of the best. I think they're just.
I think some people are.
Well, like, but that
idiots,
is
that's okay.
That's a dumb argument.
Someone just stopped listening to our podcast because I was like, idiots, and they're like,
well, but whether they should be in or not is a fair question. Whether one of the best 4 teams, I don't think that's a fair question.
No,
like, at this point,
I think if you're a Georgia fan listening to this, I absolutely believe that Georgia is one of the best 4 teams in the country and should have been included. Texas, by the way, Texas fans, I made them mad. I did. Because I just said I feel like it's strange that no one's talking about the fact that there's 2 one-loss teams that got in over.
I agree.
Oh, it's just it. Why aren't you that like? There's 2 that made it. I understand that there was 1 spot, and then it's like technically, but Texas fans, I was literally not trying to say that you don't deserve to be in, and I had to like reiterate that. I'm like, that's not the point. Also, it cracks me up that people will yell and cry that you're being biased when they are legitimately a fan of that school. It's in their bio, it's in their pick, and then they're like, you're being a homer, you're being a fan. I'm like, so are you. You're arguing for your team right now. Currently, you're upset because I'm talking about your team, but it is factually accurate that 2 teams with 1 losses got in to the playoff over an undefeated Power 5, not just 1. Even though someone actually tried to say that there was only 1, which is bizarre.
Well, the other thing you brought up, there are 2 teams here that are probably pissed off. That are Georgia and Ohio State.
Yeah.
Both are really good teams that lost a game at the worst possible time against really good teams. One on the road, and the other, obviously, Georgia I don't think Georgia just didn't have it. Injuries, I don't know what it was. It was not working. Bowers is clearly hurt. McConkey was like limping constantly. Carson Beck didn't look all that healthy. Something happened with his hand. Like, they're just, they've been running good for 3 years. So, like, they did not run well in this.
The fact that they didn't get hit with an injury bug earlier is surprising. It's hard to do. Like, that's why no one's done it since in like modern times. 3 times.
And then for Ohio State, this is wild. Have you seen the transfer portal and the declares? Like this roster is being ripped apart. Obviously, McCord transfer portal. I know we're segueing into other things. This will be a quick show. But have you seen the losses that they are enduring? The aftermath of what happens this weekend, by the way, reality comes fast. The transfer portal is popping. And it gets really intense, like really, really fast. So it's been very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's been kind of intense the last few days, and we'll definitely hit more on transfer portal next week as people start to commit to places, but there's a significant amount of names. There is something that published on Bleacher Report yesterday that is a list of the top quarterbacks that are still available that have not committed places, so definitely go check that out. But yeah, I mean, the impact is insane. And also for Ohio State, I think, like, again, when you're looking at like best teams, like you could argue that they have looked like the last couple of weeks before they played Michigan looked like one of the best teams, because we legit thought they had a shot at beating Michigan. So
sure.
The best team argument is kind of crazy, but it is going to be interesting to see who plays in that Florida State Georgia game, because I think it's going to be a whole lot of nobody. No offense to the backups, but like, good for you guys on a national stage. But I don't know how competitive that game is going to be.
By the way, this is the beer I'm drinking. I already drank it. It's an old style. You never heard of Old Style? Buddy, the internet is not going to be happy about this.
Really? If I'm not a beer drinker, and is it like a Midwest thing, or? It's
a Midwest thing. It's drinking this at,
I know of Spotted Cow. Isn't that your guys' thing?
That's a Wisconsin thing. Yeah, okay. But like Old Style is like shittier college beer. It's actually not bad. This was
like Natty Light?
Yeah, but Natty Light for a 35-year-old.
Okay. Because like we did Keystone, and then I've done Natty Light. This was in college, by the way. But I went to UNC to like visit their like I think it's Franklin Street, and there's a place there that has Natty Light on tap. Like, have you ever gotten that? Draft Natty Light?
Yeah.
Like, not bad. Not bad.
I
mean, if you're looking me up,
I'm trying to debate if I should get out of my office and let this guy come. He's just standing outside. The people on the pod, I don't know if it's going to make the pod or not. Right?
This is definitely going to make the pod, because we can end the pod. We've talked about the things that we need to talk about.
I think you're right. I need to regroup emotionally and spiritually. Oh, real quick, Heisman. Real quick, and then we can end. We did a video on the Heisman today. Jane Daniels is that dude.
Yeah, Jane Daniels should win. There's no question about it. We know the team that he plays for lost 3 times, but that's okay. It's his defense is absolutely terrible. But do go check out that video in the Bleacher Report app, by the way.
This is the most shoddy, like shooting me out of a fucking cannon into, like, over the net and into the nearby like retention pond. That's what they're doing. But we can keep this one short, because we do have, if anyone has been listening to this pod, they know that our holiday episode, whenever that is it going to be next week? Is it going to be the following week? We don't know. Is normally the most off the rails episode of the year.
We haven't addressed, we did address it where we're like, hey, sorry, we didn't have a podcast during Thanksgiving week, because usually our Thanksgiving pods are so good. We will make up for that, and maybe next week, we'll have a child's show to go to, so maybe I won't get drunk on the next pod. But the week after
is that one.
Is that one. We can do that.
All right. Well, then we will end this like a
bunch of banshees. We're just so ridiculous right now.
No, but it was fun. We have talked a lot over the last week, and I think everybody knows what the deal is. So this is good. we will exit in a full force. For Paige, I am Adam. We will talk to you guys.